Let's talk to David McKelvey. He's a private prosecutor on shoplifting. He's a former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector. David, tell us what you do now, a private prosecutor on shoplifting. Tell us the kind of work that you do now.
So we basically have uniform patrols in particular areas of London and just outside London that operate to keep people safe and will respond to shoplifting incidents. We also have a prolific crimes team, which is a plainclothes team of detectives that go out and they hunt down shoplifters. So in all the areas that we police, we catch shoplifters. We will call the police in the first instance. If the police don't turn up or where we get a name and address, we will then prosecute as a private prosecutor. And the actual process is no different to a state-based prosecution. We serve them with a summons, they attend court, we have our own lawyers, it goes through the system in the same way, and they end up getting a sentence, a conviction and a sentence in the same way as they would do if it was a state-based prosecution. The big difference that we make is we also prosecute burglary. So if someone commits offences, we serve them what we call a trespass notice. If they then reoffend, which they often do, we don't prosecute for theft, we prosecute for burglary, which allows greater sentencing powers.
So you have essentially, let me just understand this correctly, almost a sort of private police force.
It's not a private police force. We're using the law.
The law that exists at the moment, but essentially businesses, presumably private individuals as well, can ring you if the police don't do their job? Is that essentially it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't just deal with shoplifting. We're dealing with teams of burglars and burglary offences, car crime, all sorts of things, even allegations of rape where they've not been investigated properly. So, yeah, we pick up where the police have dropped off.
What do you think this says, David? First of all, I think that's a really good idea that you do that. It's great that that service is there. But what do you think it's, and I'm not in any way criticising you, I'm simply asking you, what do you think that says about the police, the service that you used to be part of as a Detective Chief Inspector? When the state is there, the taxes are being used to fund the police, but the police are clearly not doing their job to the extent that organisations like yours work and fill that gap and clearly do so very well.
Yeah, but you've got to understand the police are massively under-resourced. I mean, if you look at, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police has just announced eye-watering cuts coming this year. You're going to see, reductions in police officers by 2,300, 400 police staff. Essex only announced yesterday they're going to do away with all of their PCSOs and probably another 100 police officers. So we're in a situation where the police can't cope at the moment with the levels of crime that are already taking place. They've got to focus on those crimes that are far more serious, robberies, rapes, domestic violence, etc. And so, other crimes such as shoplifting are being left unattended effectively.
So just tell me how this works then. Are you kept sort of on a retainer by businesses, or can someone just ring you up and say, look, I've got the CCTV footage, for example, of someone who's been shoplifting, I want them lifted, or I want something done about it. How does it actually work in your business? I'm interested.
Well, we operate across 18 residential beats to keep people safe within a residential area. And then we operate in 18 business areas, which we call beats, old-fashioned specific areas where we police effectively. And within those areas, we operate and work for what they call business improvement districts, who pay for our services. The actual arrest, detention, prosecution side of it, we meet the cost of that ourselves. So we've done over 1,500 private prosecutions. We've got 100% conviction rate, and about 13% of those we convict get some form of custodial sentence.
You've got a 100% conviction rate. How have you managed that?
We have a team of retired detectives that work back end, who have spent their lives in the flying squad, regional crime squads, etc. They put the cases together. So when we put a case together, you've got a really experienced detective putting the case together. It then goes to an independent lawyer who reviews it in the same way as the CPS would. Is it in the public interest? Is there sufficient evidence? Only then will we proceed with a prosecution. And we're very successful in convicting people.
Again, I mean, this sounds very, very good, but it's a service for people who can afford it, essentially. I'm not criticising you for that. You're there to make a living, and that's absolutely fine. But there will be people who say, why can't the police why can't the police, crime prosecution service, other aspects of the criminal justice system provide that to everybody who's actually paying taxes for it anyway?
Yeah, that's a fallacy, to be honest, Peter. The areas that we operate are not wealthy areas. Some of the residential areas are, but if you look at the business areas, we police areas like Clapham, Streatham, Tulse Hill, across London. They're not wealthy areas. The business improvement districts within those areas pay us to keep people safe, and that's the big thing that comes across when you go back to the clients and ask them. The big issue is whether they feel safe or not. And where we police, they know that our horrific crimes team or our bobbies will be there within 2 minutes. And that's the message we get back from, the retail staff and the residents. For the first time ever, we feel safe. And it's not rocket science. This is what policing used to do. We used to have bobbies.
Why doesn't it do it anymore?
Again, resources. Peter, it comes down to resources. I know the government keeps talking about community officers and putting people back on the streets, but of course, at the same time, they're then cutting the budgets, which means you're going to have a cut down police force.
How important is it, do you think? I mean, in an ideal world, you'd prosecute all these people, and the state would do it, and organisations like yours wouldn't have to exist. And as I say, there's no criticism that it does exist. It's simply looking into it. It's really, really interesting to talk to you today, David. I just wonder, from the position of shoplifting, of lifting phones, of things that are more minor crimes. They don't feel minor when they happen to you. They absolutely don't. But we're not talking about rape and murder and armed robbery and things like that. We're talking about things that are not as serious. How important do you think it is to prosecute those, to stop them perhaps becoming a gateway, especially when there are things like organised criminal gangs involved with this?
Absolutely essential. The point here, if I just flip back, if you look at the new figures, 2,000 incidents a day of assault and use of weapons on retail staff. 2,000, and that's a huge number. So you're talking about violent crime against retail staff, and the only thing, Peter, that works, the only thing that will stop and deter these people is to put them before a court and to prosecute and convict them. It's only a court that can impose a drug rehabilitation order, an alcohol addiction centre. It's only that, by going through that court process, you will actually get a sentence that will be meaningful effectively. And of course, custody is one of those opportunities.
David, really interesting to talk to you. Thank you for your time today. That's David McKelvey there. He's a private prosecutor on shoplifting and many other different things as well. He's told us a lot about his business there, and he's a former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector. So thank you to him for that. Really, really interesting.